Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking Up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time that we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I am so excited for today. We are discussing one of the most important conversations that I believe we should be having in the city of Boston, across the nation, and that is of housing and how to create pathways to homeownership. So today with me we have MAHA and representatives from MAHA, whether they work with the organization or whether volunteering, but MAHA is the Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance. And I'm not even going to tell you all the amazing things that I know as an agent about MAHA, but let MAHA speak for themselves and what they fight for and what they fought for and how you can utilize the services that they provide. So to my left, we'll start with Barbara. Please introduce yourself and then we'll go around the table.
Hi, my name is Barbara Rice and I am fortunate to be a homeowner in Boston, and I am a homeowner because of the mortgage program that volunteers and staff at MAHA fought for. In fact, it started in 1991. It's a very stable program, and over 20,000 people have been able to buy their first home throughout the state of Massachusetts with our program, now called the One Mortgage.
Hi, my name is Symone Crawford, and I am a volunteer with the Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance. I currently sit as the president, and I have also utilized the soft second then now One Mortgage program through the buying my home. I currently live in Mattapan as a homeowner, and I'm excited to be here and to actually help others realize that I had.
Hi, my name is Ivelisse Caraballo, and I am a volunteer with MAHA. I took their home buyers class, and I am a homeowner with the One Mortgage.
Along with the 20,000 other people, we have 3 here tonight.
So what exactly is the One Mortgage?
A number of lending institutions, banks, and credit unions that MAHA negotiates with offer a mortgage program called the One Mortgage, administered by the Mass Housing Partnership, which is a quasi-state agency. The program is available for people earning moderate to lower incomes to buy their first home, to be owner occupants. It has a reduced interest rate. The banks and lenders that participate agree to reduce the interest rate, and it can save homeowners $200 to $300 a month because there's a private mortgage insurance, and sometimes people get some assistance with the mortgage payments.
Mm-hmm. It is one of the best way for low and moderate income homeowner people that want to own their home to try a mortgage. This program helps you through setting up your ability to build wealth within the city of Boston or wherever it is in the state of Massachusetts, because it is a state program. It's not the program. As someone that benefited from this program, I would like you to know that it is possible. If you're ever thinking that it is not possible to own a home through this program, it is possible.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, for some reason I can't forget that it's only 3% down payment. most mortgages require 5 or more, so yes. I benefited from being able to do that.
And 1.5% comes from your own funds, but 1.5% can come from city or town assistance or other programs or even family members
gifts,
if
yes.
you're lucky enough.
Mm-hmm.
But the program requires first-time homebuyer education. Yes. And that's a really important part of it. One of the services that MAHA offers is the first-time homebuyer class. It's a serious class. You come for 12 hours. You get presentations by real estate agents, by lenders, by attorneys. Vector, I know a lot about the process, but I couldn't tell you what an inspector looks for when they examine a house. I couldn't answer your questions the way an inspector can. So the education part of what MAHA does, the first-time home and the homeowner classes is very important reason why so many of our buyers have been successful homeowners and are still in their homes.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, as an agent, I've worked with many people that could not afford a home otherwise. And a lot of lenders don't provide the One Mortgage. It's not even a conversation. And if you're not banking with me. If I'm not giving you money, why would I tell you about somewhere else you can go to get the money? So it's like me or nothing. And a lot of lenders are, don't have the, I don't want to say know-how, or maybe selfishness, or maybe they just don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. Maybe they don't know that the one mortgage exists. And I feel as if for the people who are making like $40,000, $45,000, and they can't get the assistance that everyone at the table got, that they just feel like, you know what, it's for me, I can't be a homeowner. So as far as MAHA and the conversation of gentrification, how is that? Because I know you guys fight for it.
You hit it a minute ago, but that a lot of people feel they can't become homeowners, and some of that is because the price of houses now is so
astronomical,
crazy.
Yes.
And especially in Boston, we have so many people graduating from our classes, and they can't afford to buy. So our mission, in addition to the education, MAHA does a lot of advocacy. We fight for things. We don't just sit back. So right now, our big fight is around the issue of gentrification, people getting displaced, and to combat, to fight for more affordable homeownership opportunities for people in Boston and in other communities.
Mm-hmm. But what does that fight look like?
Well, currently, what we're trying to do is to bring awareness to where we want to go, the amount of homes we want people to have within the city of Boston that's affordable, so that people don't get displaced, don't get pushed out of Boston because they can't afford it. It's $600,000 or $400,000, and they're only earning, $40,000 or $30,000, and they can't afford it. So part of that fight is to bring city councilors, bring state reps, bring businesses, corporations, the schools, the hospital, all into the knowledge and the awareness that we have to do something about it. And we're trying to do this by actually having a meeting on Tuesday at the Boston Teachers Union to highlight this, to bring everyone in the same room to, come to have a conversation and to view solutions around this issue.
So there's a conversation that's being had this coming Tuesday.
Because the community and city councilors about solutions. We're all about solutions.
Yes.
But part of MAHA's mission is that we know that there's an enormous racial homeownership gap in Boston and in Massachusetts, and this gentrification displacement is pushing that gap further and further in the wrong direction. While our classes, 74% of the people that graduate from MAHA's homebuyer classes are people of color. The one mortgage program, I think 2/3 of the people in Boston are people of color that are able to buy their home with the program. So we realize that there's an enormous wealth gap, and that tied to the enormous homeownership gap, and that's part of our fight. We think that Boston is now a very diverse city with, in the last 5 years, I think people of color have come up, more than white people in Boston. But if we don't fight against the displacement and the gentrification and provide homeownership opportunities for people to stay in Boston,
it's going to go in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things that I admire about MAHA is that usually when decisions are made about the community member citizens, they're usually never at the table. One of the things I admire about MAHA is that they speak to the community that they're serving. They have constant meetings with the people who have graduated from or certified through their program. They keep those people. They make sure that they become registered to vote. They speak to them about the issues, and they discuss about potential solutions with the community. Like, what do you think should happen? And here, since we have, what do you think about it? So I like the fact that they're involving the very community that they're fighting for. And so this is on Tuesday. It's going to be that type of community, except that it's going to include elected officials, so that we can offer them. Okay, well, these are the solutions that the community has come up with. Is this something you can take into consideration in your role as a policy maker?
So it goes back to last fall when class graduates and homeowners and home buyers and people that believe renting is still for them, but all of those people are part of MAHA members, and we came up with we have to do something about what's happening with the affordability of home ownership. Because we we understand that rentals is a problem too, that rents are really high, but our focus, and we're one of the few organizations in Boston where our focus is on homeownership opportunities. And we believe that that allows people to accumulate wealth, that homeownership strengthens families and strengthens communities, and that's where our passion comes from.
So on Tuesday, the 12th, at the Boston Teachers Union, what exactly are the solutions? Like, what are the things that will be discussed as far as solution-based conversation?
Well, first, starting at 6, we're going to have housing information for people, just a lot of information tables for people that want more information about various housing issues. At 6:30, we're going to start talking about solutions, because more affordable homeownership takes money.
Of course.
Yes.
So we got to get more money into the city and then monitor that that money goes for homeownership opportunities. There are several venues. One that we like to talk about is the universities and the nonprofits that don't pay taxes like they should.
Say it again.
It's one of Symone's favorites too.
Yes, so what we're looking at is the fact that because of their nonprofit status, they are not required or to pay taxes. But at the same time, they're growing, they're utilizing the spaces. The students are coming in from all over utilizing the spaces that be made for our citizens to use. They basically admit more people onto their school's ground without having proper home place to put them. This drives up the rent. Naturally, the rent to a student is
Supply and demand.
Exactly, much greater. We think that they should be paying into a fund to help provide housing for people that live here, that want to live here, and without pushing them out of the city because students are coming to their school for education. So I think they need to give back to the community in this way because they're not paying taxes.
And how has that conversation been so far as schools and colleges and even hospitals? Have they engaged in this conversation in the past? Because this isn't new. We had this, housing is a cycle, and we've had this issue in the past, and I know that when they were taking over all of the city, this was the issue then, and it's still an issue now. So have they ever been?
There is a program that was set up called Pilots, which is payment in lieu of, and there is a formula by which they're supposed to be paying into the program 25% of what they would normally pay
in taxes
if their property was taxable.
So shouldn't we have $1 billion?
Right.
So the problem is, it's voluntary. And some of the hospitals, I have to speak, in the last few years, people have been negotiating with them. They're a little better.
Okay.
But some of the universities.
Say their name. Say their name.
Northeast.
Yes.
Harvard, look at Harvard's endowment. Yet they're technically a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And
Talk
they
about
own
the
a lot of
BCs and the
land in
BUs,
Alston and that area. So there has been a coalition of people from the teachers union, from different labor groups, from different housing groups. There's been a coalition that has been completing a study, and we're going to be announcing that study and shaming them and involving the city council and shaming them and doing whatever is legally possible.
So glad
But
you
we
did say
believe
their
we'll
name.
try and get those payments up. That's only one of the ways that we can get more money into affordable homeownership opportunities, right?
But before we go to one of the other ones, for me, it's not really about shaming it, but holding you accountable.
Accountable, yeah, it's
Like,
accountability.
just because it's voluntary, you should voluntarily want to improve your city, want to improve the community that you're pushing people out, especially when you say, like, the Northeastern is taking over all of Roxbury. All of their students are in Roxbury. Hold them accountable. And we have listeners and watchers and viewers that don't know. So if they don't know, they can't pick up the phone. They can't call 311. They can't call their congressman woman and complain and say, these are the problems. I just found out about it, but, I want it's, what is it, in lieu? Something?
Payment in taxes. And they do get credit for community things they do and for scholarships they provide, but there's no transparency. So if they are claiming credit for something they do, we want to know how much credit they're claiming. There has to be transparency. They can't say, "Oh, we take half of that 25%." 5% and do scholarships. How many scholarships? Who are they to? How much?
So right now, it's just your word line. Like, whatever I say on taxes is
They
true.
report something, but they don't really report in depth that we'd like to see. We have to, in order to hold them accountable, we have to be able to take a look at what they're doing and look at what we're doing. That's what we want. We want people to be mad.
I just got aggravated right now
Yes,
because
definitely.
I never, first of all, I never knew that this payment in lieu of taxes ever existed. I never knew that it was voluntary. And I never knew that there's no accountability system. There's no,
No, there's some accountability. There's not enough transparency.
Yes. Well,
It's not that they don't report, but we don't believe they report with enough detail.
there's no accountability. there's none. I could tell you what I want. Guess you know what? I did 22 push-ups today. Okay.
Okay, Mama.
Nobody will help them, so there's no accountability.
Exactly.
What is another way? But is there something you wanted to talk about on that topic as far as like accountability, the taxes in lieu of or lack thereof?
Well, I just think that if you give someone the option to pay or not to pay, which is the voluntary word there, it really sticks out really loudly. I think there should be some changes there to make it a little bit more than just voluntarily pay into the pilot program. They need to make some deep stipulation considering the impact it is having on our community today. So I just think that, that should be looked at again at this juncture. We're having a real issue here and help.
Who wants to volunteer to pay something they don't have to? Like, okay.
Let the government say you can pay this 30% if you want to.
No.
FICA would not get any. What is it?
Nobody lets me pay.
No, I know.
Voluntary.
And they actually, the hospitals and the schools combined make up more than 50% of Boston land.
Yes.
That's a big problem for Boston.
Yes.
So much of the property in the city is, yet they do drive on our roads.
Yeah.
They take the subway. They require the streets and sidewalks to be plowed, and et cetera, et cetera.
What grinds my gears is that some of these universities accept students within the community that they reside in.
Yes.
So it's like,
Hold on, you might have to expound upon that. What?
so like, a lot of them prefer to accept out-of-state and international students because the tuition is higher. And so they won't accept local students because they don't really make as much money off of them. So they're like ripping us off more than one way.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Moment of silence on a live show. I was completely unaware, and there's no law, there's no there's nothing that says X amount of students have to be from me.
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of. No? And they could
Some of
correct
them have
us.
some programs that accept a certain number, but what Evelise is saying, they have a big incentive for especially foreign students and out of state because they pay more.
Yes.
And so
Well,
when they come and they don't live in the community, they have to find somewhere to live.
Yes.
So then they all bunk up in one apartment, and that's why they if they're only paying $500 a month, but there's 7 of them, that's why that landlord is getting a big amount for the rent, and that's what the neighboring landlords want to charge a single-parent home or a 2-parent home. You know.
Just to be clear, I think some of that is true for the public universities, as far as from out of state and from out of the country. I think for some of the private universities, Northeastern, Boston University, Harvard, they admit a lot of students that pay a lot of money to go there, and they do have a certain amount of scholarship, but how does that correspond to how much land they have in Boston and how many resources they do use?
So this is not okay, I want to go back to this not being a new conversation because I watched a documentary that on Facebook, and it was like the housing crisis of the 70s. Back when I believe it was Harvard was taking over South Boston, they were ripping down projects, and families, Irish families, were being displaced. So with this not being a new conversation, how do people get mad and say, rah, 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 we want change, and then fall asleep and forget about the problems? Like, how 40 are we still having the same issue? And let's go back to solutions, because we can sit around the table and talk about the problems and inform people of the problems that maybe they didn't know exist. But what can I do? It's on the 12th or whether it's every single day.
So I think you're right that we like to complain about the problems sometimes, but when MAHA started in the mid to late 1980s, there was a lot of redlining, tremendous amount of redlining, very difficult for people of color to buy in Boston. There weren't banks in Roxbury. One of the first fights I remember was fighting for bank branches. So some of those fights have been successful, and since the one program started, again, we have 20,000 people that have been able to buy their first home. So I feel like there have been fights that people have won. You know, they wanted to put from right through the middle of Boston, and people fought that and won that fight. So I think it's important for us to feel that we can fight and win. So some of the luxury development that we see going on, a lot of luxury apartment buildings, they have to pay a certain amount into a fee called IDP.
Is that voluntary?
No, that's not voluntary. That one, the city controls, is not voluntary, but it's not high enough for what they're making now in those apartment buildings.
Do we know that number?
We know that number. There's a complicated formula, but basically they pay about 13% affordabilities if they have over 10 units.
Hold on, pause. Can you give me these numbers? Like, how does this work? You may not know the formula, but you said 13%.
13. If they have 10 or more units,
okay,
they have to have 13% affordabilities. I don't know how you have a third of a unit when you have 11 units. To have like a 1 unit, if you're building 10, 1 unit should be affordable. They can do it on-site or off-site, so that's where the formula comes into account.
So if I don't want you near me because you're low income and I am mandated by this state to have 13%, I can take you off my site and build you somewhere else.
Yes, you can build somewhere else, but there's two sides to that coin, because the other side is we might get 2 units, because if that luxury department is in the Seaport or downtown, the cost of 1 unit there, 1 affordable unit, we could build 2 in Dorchester.
Okay.
And there's often an issue with the condo payments in those luxury apartments. Even though they're prorated for the affordable units, they get to be more expensive than the mortgages sometimes. So it's a complicated, people should have...
people don't really want to go into the luxury apartment and be there, but you'd still want a home. So that's what she's trying to say. Even though they have the option to take you off their luxury site onto a different site, it could work in a positive light for both parties.
So we want some of both. We don't want,
I was in my feelings for a second about the fact that because you don't want me in the unit, you can put me somewhere else off-site. And I think that goes against the point of to integrate
and diversify the community. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, one of the solutions is that we want to increase that percentage. We want to offer this as a solution. Could you increase that percent to 25%?
We basically want to double that percent. Cambridge and Somerville have recently raised theirs. They're at 20% now, and Boston is still at 13%. So we would like to double Boston's.
Considering all the new buildings we see going places.
And there's a lot of commercial too. There's a lot of new commercial development, wealthy, whether it's department stores or office buildings, and they have to pay into a fund called inclusionary development, and we want to double that also. They're making a lot of money from all this development in Boston, and we want it to come back to a housing fund for affordable homeownership opportunities.
Office space right now for like 900 square feet is $3,600 a month. Like, that's a couple mortgages. So is that also part of the conversation as far as like brick and mortars and small businesses being able to, I don't know if that's something MAHA does, but is that also a part of the conversation? Is commercial space affordable for people who have growing busices?
We don't do that, but the inclusionary development is only for the large, over 10,000 square feet developers to pay into a housing fund. So a small developer, a small storefront would not matter. But we're concerned about that because we think that with the gentrification that we see creeping through Roxbury and Dorchester, and those small businesses are going to be gone if we don't protect them.
Yeah.
And we have to protect them by the diversity and of the neighborhoods, and by their ability to not get displaced by fancy stores coming in or fancy coffee.
How is that as far as the conversation? Because I know the 12th might be a community conversation, but how has it been on a private scale, like between MAHA and the mayor? How has that, because the mayor is doing all that he can for housing, and so how has that conversation been about doubling that 13%?
We've met with elected officials individually to be able to offer some of these solutions. That's one.
So our first step, this Tuesday, again, it's this Tuesday, June 12th, that we're meeting with this community, and we're seeing that as the launch of a campaign.
Okay.
So it's getting the city councilors, the community involved in launching this campaign that we will bring.
So this is the beginning of the conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
To a
So-
certain extent.
Because people have been talking about the problem now, but we want to start talking about
The
solutions.
solution. Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's not easy, but I feel like this is common sense. First of all, I feel like it's common sense, and for an organization outside of a quasi-governmental situation that's going on, the solution should have came from inside versus coming. There's a light bulb that went on over your head. I just feel like with all of the new diversity that has gone into the mayor's office, that this should have been a conversation and a solution to MAHA saying, June 12th, we want to start it.
Well, I'm sure our mayor is confident in his thought process and his ideas that he is doing something about it. Maybe what we are seeing he's doing, or what we're reading that he's planning to do, is not enough to really attack the problem from all aspects. So I think that this will maybe flush it out a little bit so we can actually see and reach the people that truly are in need. And so I'm not saying that he's not doing anything, because he has tried. I just think that what he's doing could be done, a little more could be done then. Easier to like open it up closer so that we can all see what needs to be done and try to start the conversation to get it done.
And a lot of the housing money that the city has put into housing needs in the 4 or 5 years has been toward rental. We know it. Homelessness is a problem.
Yes.
The high cost of rents that people can't afford. People come to our classes. My rent just went from $2,000 to $2,400. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
That's beyond mortgage prices.
Yes.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
So we want to see more of that going toward homeownership, because we think, again, that that's a long-term solution.
But we don't want to impact our renters. So what we're trying to do is put the money that is already here to a bigger amount so that we can get more without impacting renters, because we do need money for renters as well.
So we have this vision of a pie. And we want to grow the pie.
Yes.
The pie funds that the city uses for housing. Grow the pie so a bigger piece of that can be for homeownership
Homeownership,
opportunities.
yes.
In fact, when on the meeting on Tuesday, we're going to talk about these pies. In fact, we're going to give the city council, I get a little word, we're going to give the city councilors a little tiny pie.
Yes.
And say, this is not big enough. We got to grow this pie.
Yes. Yes.
So what does homeownership in Boston look like as far as the numbers? I remember reading somewhere that ownership and the economic discrepancies between races and the homeownership between races, like how many homeowners are of color versus homeowners that not be of color?
Okay. So what we can say is that there's a racial homeownership gap in Boston. And basically the data shows that whites are 44% more likely to own U.S. blacks, which is at 29%. So that's, kind of a light bulb that even though we are predominantly black, we don't really own as much as the whites in the city. And if we want to divulge it a little further, we can look at the racial wealth. Wealth is initially tied to homeownership for the most part. And we're looking at U.S. black, that is at $8 on average. Hispanic is at $2,700. We have our Caribbean black household at $12,000, and white $247,500.
So the Caribbean blacks got money. Or a little something.
Well, not much when you compare it to
Compare it to
247,000.
Yeah, so it is a huge discrepancy.
That is a huge thing. And working on home ownership, you know, let's say, for instance, I just walked into MAHA. I want to be a homeowner. What's my first step?
Well, you need your classes.
I have to take a
Your
class.
first time homebuyer classes goes through your and meet with your banks and be pre-approved for your home, and based on the one mortgage program and MAHA's help, hopefully we'll get you into a home based on your financial situation. And this is the situation if all the ducks are lined up in a row.
So MAHA has, we normally offer 2 home buyer classes every month. And we're graduating 40 or 50 from each of those classes that would like to buy. Yes. That's the first step. You get a certificate that's good for 3 years and required.
So I'd take one class for 12 hours?
Or
Not-
2 or separate. It could be 2 days.
It's usually 4 evenings.
Yeah.
Or it might be 2 Saturdays. So the class has 4 sessions. Keep you for 12 hours in one day. But again, sometimes it would be 2 evenings, 2 weeks in a row. Sometimes it would be 1 evening for 4 weeks. We tried to mix it up because people's schedules vary, so people can find the best class for them. For it online, our website is mahahome.org. You see the list of our classes, the locations, and the dates. After you take the first-time homebuyer class, you can meet individually with our homeowner advisor for your particular situation. You might have to straighten out some things in your credit. I don't know. You might have to take your time. Some people, we really encourage people, if it takes you a year, if it takes you 2 years, you want to get into a situation that's good for you.
How much savings do I have to have?
The 1.5%.
1.5% has to come from your own funds. So if you qualify to buy a $300,000, do the math, 3% would be $9,000. $4,500 would have to come from your funds.
Okay.
And there are additional closing costs.
That sounds
Not gonna
like
hide it. There's additional closing costs.
that sounds like taxes. That's-
Like your refund, right?
Yeah, that's my refund. Just decide and I could buy a house.
With the right credit score and the right
Stable income.
income
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
And what does a right credit score look like?
And-
Because you know my grandma put her cable bill in my name when I was little. I'm just joking, baby. She's never done that.
Well, you can. The right credit score, it truly depends on. Well, it's an individual thing, and I think that the best way is not to quantify it here, but to have you speak directly with a financial advisor so they can help you to get it to where it needs to
A
be.
lot of people are mistaken that they can look and see their credit score, but unfortunately the credit score the banks use is not that same education score.
Please tell them again, because
So-
Credit Karma is not the right score.
So yes, the various credit, it might give you an idea,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that is not your credit
It might
score.
be 60 points off. as
That's
well.
why we ask people to meet with the counselor, because what's on your credit report is, have you had lates? Do you have defaults? What do you have to do
I
about
have
that?
student loans for years, like my whole life.
If you pay them, that's great.
great, yes.
But it hurts you as far as what your debt is. When you go to buy, they're going to look, have car payments, do you have student loans? How much can you afford every month? And that's what our counselor goes over with you, to kind of make a map for you of what are the steps that you have to take to be in the best position to purchase your home.
Afford a home. Yeah.
So there is no cookie cutter approach to home ownership.
Everybody's case is different, and so that's why they have to meet with somebody to figure out what's your case, what would work for you.
What worked for you guys?
For me, I was new to the country. I was only here 4 years. I had a strong credit history because I was very determined that I'm going to pay on time or before. My income was moderate, or well, I should say on the low side. But I had people in my corner, and organizations like the Massachusetts Alliance, MAHA, the bank that offered the then soft second program, and the counseling, both the pre-counseling and the post-counseling classes helped me to get to the point where I was able to feel confident that I deserved a home and confident to purchase it and to keep it now since 2004. So while I no longer need the the help from MAHA in the sense that I need to go call them for anything, even though I know I can now put my time into this so others can also realize this dream.
Their dream as well.
Yes.
So you own a one-family or a multifamily?
Multifamily.
You own a multifamily. Do you mind if I ask you, what is your mortgage
$1,000.
for a multifamily?
Yes.
And you have tenants.
Yes.
Do you have to, like, for people who are just like, I don't want to be a landlord, I don't want to, accept those people, family coming in and never moving out, how has your experience been with being a homeowner, owning a multifamily, being a landlord? Like, how do you fix things? What about roofs and boilers and everything else?
Believe me, you own a home, especially in Boston where the most of the homes are older, you are going to need to fix something. My process is, I'm a landlord, I have my tenant, this is a partnership. I want the best for my home, I want to have it for as long as I live, I don't plan to sell it, so upkeep is a necessary thing. If my tenant is saying something needs to be fixed, I have people that I call if I can't fix it myself. I do try to fix some of this. I've owned it for a while and I've watched people coming in and fixing stuff, so if I can do something for myself, I will. If it's something that I can't manage, I have people that I call. You have to shop around. You got MAHA's resources that can help you to choose people that can help you fix your tradespeople. So
So you guys have a
list that
In
yeah.
in the homeowner class, one of the things they talk about is how to find responsible repair
Yes.
people and
Yes.
how to manage repairs.
Yes.
So they also help us even after we become owners.
Yes.
So there's like a resource list of plumbers and electricians and
Well, we more give you direction of how you can find.
them.
We don't have a exact list, but we do use several of the referral agencies that we trust that vetted the people.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we don't have the ability of those people, so we don't want to.
So before we get to Evalise's story of becoming a homeowner, 2004, right? You were in a different financial situation in 2004, but you still received the benefit PMI, you still receive the benefits. So even though your income changes, your
Mortgage
Stays the same. And
so
what is it?
regardless,
So
like
she
you
could
could
wake
become a millionaire.
tomorrow,
Yes.
and her mortgage will still
My
be
mortgage
the same.
stays the
She-
same. Yeah.
The one mortgage can be used whatever you can afford to buy, whether it's a lottery property or a market rate property, whether it's in Boston or another city or town. You buy it, you have a 30-year mortgage, and that's it.
Yeah.
What if income goes up a week later? It's not tied. You have your mortgage.
Yes.
I know that
You-
for a fact. I just got a promotion. So, yeah, I know that for a fact.
Definitely, definitely. I tell you, that for people out there that are thinking, oh, I can't do this, or homeownership is not for me, or I want to do it, but I don't know how to do it. Just know that it is one of the best feelings that you can ever have, to have your kids grow up in a home that gives them stability, so you don't have to worry about asking you to move and you running around with the furniture trying to find some place to live. It helps you mentally, it builds your community. Owner-occupied properties are one of the best properties. You can walk and know, oh, this landlord lives here, because you'll see my garden, planting my flowers, planting my herbs, and just feeling good and proud. I'm telling you, from the day I bought my home to today, every time I walk up those stairs and put the key in the lock, is a good feeling. It's an amazing.
Yes.
And that's why we're having at 6 on Tuesday at the Boston Teachers Union. That's why we're having housing information for people that are thinking they might want to buy, or even people that rent. They can get information at 6 o'clock. That information will be at the Boston Teachers Union.
On Tuesday.
At 6:30, we're going to have a community meeting, and people are free to come and give their input at that community meeting.
And let's talk about because you recently purchased a home.
Yeah.
How from being a renter to being a homeowner, and how, like Symone said, that feeling. So what was your feeling throughout the process?
So it felt good to know that this was something that was possible for me. I started homeless many years ago when I had my first child. I never foresaw this as part of my future. Like, I never thought that I would eventually own a home. So when I, took the MAHA class and I said, oh my goodness, actually do this, I I got on my P's and Q's. I started doing research about resources, about, you know, how same questions as you, like, how would I fix something if I have to fix something, and how would I do this if that happens, et cetera. You know, I like the worst. And so when I had all those ducks in a row, I'm like, this is about to really happen. And so the only really big hiccup for me is that I couldn't stay home. And by home, Boston. I was born and raised in Boston, and my kids who were teenagers were born and raised in Boston, and we couldn't afford to live in Boston. And so it disrupted my entire family. It disrupted schools, disrupted schedules, my commute, friends, even family. I always often had family gatherings together for any occasion, and I can't do that anymore. My kids don't feel moved because it just doesn't feel like home. But I wanted to break that cycle of poverty. I want to start creating that generational wealth. So although we might not like it now, and I always tell them, you'll thank me later. And it feels good. It's a small sacrifice because I still work in Boston. We can still commute. You know, it's 30 minutes on a good day, if you choose the right date and time. Anyway, great. It feels amazing. I have to remind myself, this is yours. You know, when I don't like something, guess what? I could take that apart. I could buy something new. I don't like these counters. I could get rid of them. Buy new, you know, like that feeling, just like Symone shared. Like, it is great, and I try to help people that I'm connected to feel that too. You know, like I try to help them through the process so they can feel what I have. You know, because again, from where I started, I would have never thought that this is where I would be now.
So as a homeowner, if you don't mind me asking, what were you paying in rent previously and paying your mortgage now?
So I was paying $1,600, but that's only because I knew the landlord. I was paying $1,600 in rent, but now I'm paying $1,500 in mortgage. That's another great benefit. I live in Brockton, but I'm paying less with something that's mine. I'm building equity on, you know, as opposed to $1,600 to somebody else's mortgage.
Somebody else's pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Symone, huh?
Yeah.
So we've talked about gentrification, we talk about the wealth gap, we talk about the housing gap, we talk about the inequities throughout the city, and we are focusing on solutions. So I want to talk solutions a little bit more. What exactly, you know, maybe this is too late, you know, listening on Thursday night, I'm unavailable on Tuesday, but I see the value in MAHA. For those who don't know, it's Massachusetts. So just this, even though this is a Boston-centered conversation, I can live anywhere and use MAHA in the state of Massachusetts, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And the one mortgage was the MAHA, correct?
Correct. It's statewide. People like Evelise and Symone and myself got together in 1987, 88, 89, a big study on redlining and mortgage lending, and it wasn't that different. People couldn't buy. They couldn't buy. When I bought, I thought I really got a great interest rate. It was 8.9%.
What?
So be happy about the interest
Oh
rates
my
these days.
gosh.
It had come down, but
How long ago
but
was
it was so unaffordable for
Yes.
anybody
Yes.
to be able to buy.
You
And
refinanced both?
that's why people put together, negotiated with the banks in the state to form an affordable home buyer program,
Okay.
mortgage program called the One. And we continue to offer that. I mean, it's been stable since 1991, and again, even on Tuesday there'll be information on the One Mortgage program at the event. But we're looking at a time. It's maybe some of the reasons have changed, but the inability of people to afford
It's still the same.
is still the same.
I want
Has got-
to just highlight, because we want to talk about progress that has been made. We don't want people to be hopeless and be like, that's a fight that's not going to be won. One of the highlights of MAHA is that they've also worked with banks who didn't offer the One and got them to offer the One.
Definitely.
So, you know, there has been a lot of progress. It's just that it's an overwhelmingly big fight. And so there's been a lot done, but there's still more to be done.
Those 20,000 homeowners over these years, as you know, there's 20,000 people that probably wouldn't have been able to be in their first home if they didn't have this program that made it more affordable.
It also
so-
saved you as well from being susceptible to predatory lenders that just prey on people that they know that you can't afford a $550,000 home, but they put you in that home for, and knowing that they get all their fees and stuff and they move on, and then you're left in a jam because you truly couldn't afford it. The One Mortgage program help you to buy what you can actually afford. And
I
to
think what
stay in the
Evelise said
home.
is really now in these days, we have to feel that we can come together and we can make a difference in people's lives.
Yes,
That's why Evelise and Symone and lots of other people like them give their time to MAHA.
Definitely.
Because we feel we can have victories. We
Yes.
can make changes. Maybe we can't make them overnight. Maybe we can't make everything we want. But if we come together and advocate for things, we can make a
Yes.
difference in people's lives.
And just to reiterate that Symone and Evelise, neither one of you are like paid sponsors by MAHA.
No, purely volunteer, but I get my pleasure from knowing that someone else is realizing the dream that I did and is getting the same feeling every day they walk up to their front with the keys in the lock. Yes.
For me, my satisfaction is increasing this Hispanic wealth gap. This wealth gap, like,
Yes.
it's $2,700. No, I need to increase that. And if I could get to go out there and be homeowners, for me, that's an investment.
Definitely, definitely.
Is there any last words that either of you want to say regarding homeownership, regarding MAHA, or what MAHA has done for you, what the One Mortgage can do for people? One of the questions I did want to ask is, for those that are currently watching, like what tax, like how much do I have to make? What does my income have to look like? What does my household have to look like? I know, again, we said that everybody's situation is different. There is no cookie cutter approach. But what are the guidelines? Like,
Well, one of having now is for people making $40,000 to $45,000 to be able to afford households to be able to afford to buy in Boston. So there is no, we see people making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. It depends how many children are in the household, how many incomes there are in the household, what they can make to qualify for the one program. And again, like we said earlier, it's not that one set of clothes fits everybody. It's not that one program. So people come to classes, and we try and figure out what's the best program for you. You might be over income for one. You might fit into a mass housing program or another program that a lender has. We don't want you to get into the wrong program. We don't want, like Symone said, you to with a predatory lender, or you just to go down to the institution where you have an account and take whatever they might offer you that might not be the best for you.
5% down.
We want 20% down.
I
You
know.
want the best
With
program?
8%.
With PMI.
With you.
So that's, again, I know I will keep emphasizing that we want people to be informed either by taking MAHA's classes, coming on Tuesday, where we're going to have tables, and we're going to be talking with city councilors about what can be done what are solutions.
Yes.
So how can I help? I can't make it on Tuesday, but how can I help?
MAHA's website is mahahome.org. Always welcome people to call us and get in touch with us and ask questions, get information, register for classes.
But how do I
participate.
help? I am a white woman who makes $20,000 a month, and I am part of the education problem. But I see that there are people suffering in the city of Boston, and it's partially my fault because, it's really not my fault because I make good money. It's not my fault that you don't make what I make, but I do want to help. How?
You can do it through donation. You can, if you would like to offer monetary donation or give of your time, we welcome both.
Give us your
Talk
time.
to people that you have connections with that you think can help us to make the changes based on what our mission, what our fight is at the time. All of that will help.
When we meet with city councilors at MAHA's office sometimes, we meet with bank executives at MAHA office sometimes. We want 30, 40, 50, 60 people in the room.
Yep.
Um,
Community members.
We want
And
community
so
involved.
you can come to one of our community meetings and get to know the community that you want to buy in or that you've already bought in, and get to know the people that are your neighbors.
And all that is on the website.
Yes.
And again, we don't want to see we want to see the diversity of Boston be able to continue. We don't want to see people be pushed out, which is why we're advocating for more affordable homeownership opportunities. It doesn't, that majority status doesn't go back because more people with white have more money, 247 or whatever equity, because I could get help from my parents when I bought a house, but maybe her parents weren't able to help her house. That's part of what this wealth gap does. That's part of the generational wealth that Evelise was talking about. But
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, this has been an interesting conversation. I hope you guys got all of the knowledge that you need on Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the Boston Teachers Union. It starts at 6 p.m. If you have any questions regarding home ownership, if you are a renter and you make $35,000, have your questions answered. MAHA.home.org.
MAHAhome.org. MAHAhome.
MAHAhome.org.
Yes.
I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Mwah.